In recent months, scientists have detected hundreds of strange tremors under the Mississippi Valley. At first glance, the stillness of the Mississippi River Valley can be deceiving. It seems almost sleepy, with endless fields stretching to the horizon, rivers winding lazily through farmland, and small towns sitting quietly with residents going about their normal businesses. This is not an area synonymous with earthquakes like California. Yet beneath this very ground, the situation is entirely different. The ground is quietly moving, and has been doing so for months now. This is after scientists logged in excess of 200 subtle tremors. They described them as too minor to rattle a coffee cup. Yet, despite being insignificant, the scientists have dubbed them too frequent to ignore. These microshocks trace a pattern along a buried fault system beneath the Midwest, a clear indicator that something more powerful might be gathering strength, and it's only a matter of time before it blows over. According to one scientist, they're treating each quake as a whisper from the Earth's crust, a clear message that the land is shifting, millimeter by millimeter. But this is not something that's entirely new. History reveals that in the winter of 1811 to 1812, the fault that we know today as the New Madrid seismic zone erupted in a series of massive earthquakes. So massive that if they were measured by modern estimates, they would be within the 7 to 8 range. Scientists have found that they were too powerful such that they reversed the flow of the mighty Mississippi. As if that was not enough, they also cracked the riverbanks, resulted in the creation of new lakes, sank forests to the ground, and sent shockwaves that were felt in towns hundreds of miles away. And now, 2 centuries later, the ground seems to be quietly preparing again. The shocking thing about all these? We can't yet feel it on the surface, and no one knows when this wrath of nature might be felt. Scientists also have little to no observable change to work with at the moment, as nothing is appearing out of place. There are neither fissures gaping in the soil, nor peaks towering overhead. Just farmland stretching toward the horizon without a hint of the intense geological forces that might just blow over any time. And yet, the ground might be quietly starting to feel the pressure as the fractures deep in the crust tighten like a coiled spring. The team tasked with keeping a close eye on this occurrence have referred to it as intraplate activity. In simple terms, it's the kind of shaking that occurs inside a tectonic plate, rather than at the edges. This only adds to the complexity of the matter, as it is an unpredictable and little-known phenomenon. To grasp the magnitude of what's building beneath the Midwest, we need to look deeper, far below the surface, to the hidden scars etched into the continent itself millions of years ago. That brings us to the previously mentioned New Madrid seismic zone, a strange and powerful geological zone, unlike the famous faults that you find in the West Coast area. As is the case with other zones, the New Madrid seismic zone does not sit where 2 plates collide. Rather, it lies smack in the middle of the icy grand expanse of the North American plate. Hundreds of millions of years ago, the land around this zone almost tore itself apart, as a massive rift that later came to be known as the Reelfoot Rift began to split the American continent. However, this process aborted midway, leaving a hidden scar, a zone of weakness that's buried beneath today's flatlands, farmlands, and rivers. Over the millennia, this zone has not remained dormant. It has continued to creep and compress as it slowly squeezes this old scar. Scientists have continuously warned that although the forces may be slow, the accumulation over time could be more than enough to reactivate that scar. And now, GPS sensors continue to peek up the minute shifts and shakes measured in millimeters. And the scientist team tasked with digging deeper into this issue are adamant that this might just be part of the buildup. The team has even come up with a name for this rift, dubbing it the Sleeping Dragon. Needless to say, the name fits the outward calm and utter invisibility. Yet, on the inside, it is capable of awakening with brutal force that could flatten everything in a couple of minutes. What makes this even more disturbing is the lack of the ordinary features to warn of an impending danger. And now the question lingering on the minds of scientists and residents here is not whether the rift will awaken, it's when it will awaken. Make sure you subscribe before we reveal exactly how it could tear through the heart of America. In the event that this rift awakens, the impact would be catastrophic. According to simulations conducted by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, if the New Madrid seismic zone experiences another magnitude 7 to 8 earthquake, as the one it experienced in the 1811 to 1812 winter season, the effects would not just be felt in one state, they would affect an entire region. It has been reported that they would be felt in far areas including Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Mississippi, and Indiana. This means that every infrastructure within these states would be fully exposed to the risk of complete destruction. Imagine the entire city of Memphis without lights while gas mains ignite, triggering flames that cannot be fought using the normal fire trucks that we know of. To make matters worse, scientists have expressed concern that this earthquake would not last 5 seconds. Far from it, they approximate that it could go on for as many as 4 minutes. Almost 5 minutes of uninterrupted motion. And the problems would not stop at that. After the motion, there would be thousands of aftershocks, with some being nearly as strong as the main event. Imagine the residents in this zone thinking that everything is finally back to normal, only to be hit with an equally significant quake. This would be a recipe for disarray, as cities would collapse into chaos. It's almost likely that power grids would also fail entirely. It is possible to overlook the human cost that would come about in the event that the ground breaks again. According to estimates obtained from scenario-driven analyses, tens of thousands of people could either be injured or tragically lose their lives. Also, millions could be displaced from the homes they once thought were safe. Not to forget the infrastructure damage that could easily run into tens of billions of dollars in repair costs. One report has even claimed that these costs could easily clock $300 billion. And it gets even worse. Unlike the state of California, where seismic danger is well known, and there are measures in place to mitigate it with warnings and quake-aware building codes, the Midwest has none of that. There is literally no early warning network in place, and the building codes are weak to help neutralize this kind of threat. All this points to one grim truth. No one would be ready for this quake if it happens. The mighty Mississippi River is a vital lifeline in the economic stability of Midwest America, enabling the transport of grains, coal, oil, and other critical cargo. Now imagine a massive seismic shock ripping through that corridor. That would translate to river ports being wrecked, fuel depots potentially exploding, pipelines beneath the waterline rupturing, and fleets of barges tossed onto the shore. The fact that entire neighborhoods could vanish also means that there would be no one to work on the facilities once everything has gone back to normal. In essence, a disruption in the flow of goods through the Mississippi River due to this quake would potentially cripple the US economy. This is not simply a region under threat. It's an entire country's economy hanging by a thread. The only issue is that no one knows when the New Madrid fault will roar next.